Okay, so the theory that I want to talk to you guys about today comes from an article I read in my philosophy class by Horkheimer and Adorno. And I kind of thought a little bit about how I want to introduce it to you guys, and this is kind of what I came up with. I'm going to describe the plot of a movie, and I want you guys to try and guess what I'm describing. So, like most movies, it starts off with the protagonist, the hero, the good guy, but he's not doing so great right now. There's something that he wants, but he doesn't have it. Yeah, okay. Guess out loud. No. Okay, so like throughout the course of the movie, he struggles for a little bit and he works pretty hard, and then by the end, he has everything that he was missing at the start. Maybe the movie you thought about was the Lego Movie, or that one movie with Adam Sandler, like Bedtime Stories, or any romantic comedy ever written. But what I was actually describing for you guys was the American Dream. So I know the American Dream isn't actually a movie, but you have to admit that the similarities between the two are striking. So I know that most of us wouldn't have a problem admitting that most of the movies that we see from Hollywood, like the Lego Movie, they're not very realistic. But I don't know how many of us would say the same thing about the American Dream. So before I get like super into this, just so we're all on the same page, the American Dream is the story that tells us because we're Americans and we have these great things like democracy and capitalism, that if we work for something, we can get it. And I think it's commonly accepted now that it isn't super realistic to always believe in the American Dream, but Hollywood keeps retelling it to us over and over again in all these movies. So I think it's interesting to look at why they do this and then kind of talk about the implications of that. But first, I'll kind of like explain like how Hollywood works is they're very selective about the movies that they will produce because they pick the ones that will give them profits and like revenues and things. So instead of like, Horkheimer and Adorno refer to it as like this culture industry where the movies that they choose are based less on like their artistic value and more on like their value as a product and what's going to sell the most. So with this, like they're constantly selling us the American Dream because these works are more palatable and they don't really encourage the viewers to think about what they're watching. So like someone going to see a movie, typically, they'll pay like their $10, they'll watch the movie for 2 hours and be like moderately entertained, and then they'll leave without having to think about the movie too much besides like, wow, that was a good movie, or dang, I wish I was Jennifer Lawrence. But yeah, so they just encourage this kind of passivity. And okay, I think that we can all agree that the media, we kind of internalize it. Like ads are a big one. I know like the way that like ads, like they affect us, kind of how like women are supposed to look, like the standards of beauty they set and things. And then there's like music affects us, and obviously now I'm talking about how movies affect us. And we all kind of internalize it. So if like a generation of people grow up watching the American Dream on the screen over and over again, I think that they're probably gonna believe in it. And these people who believe in the American Dream, when they fail, they look like intrinsically on themselves for the reason for their failure. It's because they didn't work hard enough or they didn't struggle enough to get where they wanted to be. And they never, because they look automatically inside at themselves for the reason for their failure, they never look outside and see like maybe it was the government or like a larger system that's letting me down. And I had something else. So because of this, it's like Horkheimer and Adorno said, it's like the culture industry is pretty much set up to create this compliance of the workers where they'll never like try and cause any kind of radical change in the government. They'll just kind of be happy with where they are and think that if one day they wanted to work really hard, they could end up better off, but they won't. And I think it's important because we often want to like believe that we have this free market where we can see just about anything. It's important to realize that we're not actually seeing everything that's out there, and what we are seeing is actually very Americanized and geared towards us. And that was it.